Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Watson Michael from Ceylon Institute of English and Leadership. So today we have with us Mr. Chris Finneran, right, from all the way from the UK. So Chris is the Global Travel Experience Manager for Global Partners Network at CWT. So CWT is a business-to-business for employees travel management platform. So Chris's role is to oversee the operations of 95 partner countries around the world who provide services to CWT's customers and managing transactions, high value transactions. And he is responsible for expanding CWT's tools, products to provide a consistent experience for all travelers. So he leads a team without formal authority of around 100 operation managers who in return have more than 500 plus travel counselors. So they lead and support the staff. And going back, so me and Chris, we used to work together. So I was in APAC and he used to handle the Middle East and the European market. But out of the way, there were many times when Chris came and he helped me. So during my career in the travel and tourism industry, Chris helped me a lot. So he knows the meaning of teamwork. So I'm really honored to have you here, Chris. How are you doing?
Well, Watson, thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me to do this. Yeah, but really well, actually. Travel is thankfully, touch wood, may it continue that we're sort of, coming back. After sort of a kind of devastating 2.5 years through COVID.
Yes.
But thankfully, we're seeing travel return, the ease of restrictions in countries around the world, really. Here in the UK, we've just seen the sort of end of the need to self-isolate when you return from travel, etc., things like that. Okay. So really, we're looking forward to a 2022 of return to some level of normality, and really hopefully seeing our volumes grow and grow month on month, and get back to sort of delivering what we aim for as an organization, as individuals, and get back on track, as I said.
Absolutely. So because at some stage this COVID will have to end, everybody will have to resume the travel and their day-to-day activities. Great. So Chris, I want to start with the first question with you. So how important is teamwork in an organization?
Look, for me, teamwork is an organization. The healthier your team, whether it's 2 people, whether it's 20 people, whether it's 200,000 people, that's the culture of and the ethic of your individuals, which forms your organization, and it's key to whether you succeed or not, really. When you look around sort of successful companies that you see out in media, or like you think of Apple, you think of sports teams, you name it, we all see successful companies out there. And the key to those success is a group of individuals striving to deliver something that they've set out to deliver, and that ultimately you can't do without teamwork, right? Teamwork is really the fundamentals of what we're doing. Even when you look at sort of what you would consider sort of individual roles, right? You look at sport, like individual sports, you look at golf, tennis, think of Tiger Woods or Roger Federer.
Yes.
Yes, those guys are the ones competing, but behind them is a team of coaches, physios, you name it. And without having that kind of teamwork behind them,
yes,
are they able to compete at the same level? No. So really, whether you want to be successful as an organization is really down to the effort and the success of your teams, whether that's 1 team, 10 teams, 100 teams, whatever it may be. But ultimately, your teamwork is what which drives your organization, whether that's successfully, whether it's mediocre, whatever it may be. But the health of your kind of team environment or your culture is ultimately what becomes the health of your organization.
Absolutely. Spot on. Thank you very much for that explanation. So let's look at something like you mentioned. Yeah, we look at great teams performing on a high level basis, right? So very good. So how important is trust within your team?
As a team or as individuals, we all kind of operate on some level of trust. So I think, the key to sort of trust within a team is really, developing a belief in either the collective team or the group of individuals within that team, that you are doing the right thing. You have leaders, or you have vision for that team or that organization that is, something that you buy into, something that you believe in, that you have trust in.
Okay.
And you have the trust of, you need to have the trust of the individuals within your team, your teammates, to make sure that you're kind of, everybody is invested in what you're doing, you're pulling in the same direction, and ultimately, you have trust in what you're set out to achieve.
Okay.
So, so for me, building that trust and having those kind of clear goals is what kind of develops your trust, right? And if you have a strategy that the whole team could contribute to, that, whether you're sort of the first person on the team, whether you're the longest person on the team, whatever it may be, if you can build an atmosphere where everybody has contribution to a task, you have contribution towards a strategy, you will develop that trust in kind of, a common goal. And really that's, for me, kind of necessarily how you build the trust, how you maintain it, is just having that belief that whatever you set out to do, you're contributing towards. And ultimately, whether you deliver it or not, it needs to be a shared value. You need to, the team needs to contribute in that. And for me, that's really around how, the health of that is how you build the trust in that team.
Absolutely. Definitely. So based on this, like, how do you create a high performing team?
Yeah, I think it goes back to a little bit what we kind of were talking about. I think, within what it's really important to consider is that, the whole team needs to feel that their contribution matters.
Correct.
As I said, whether you're the newest person, whether you're the sort of leading voice in a team, or even if you are leading that team, everybody in the team needs to feel that what they're doing matters and it's valued by others. I saw recently that there was a sort of, one of Man United players, football players, and he had a quote from Alex Ferguson, the manager at the time, and his thing was about every player needs to celebrate whenever they score a goal, right? It's not just the player that scores the goal or maybe contributed directly to sort of scoring that goal, but it's every player on the team, right? So even if you think about, I don't know, the goalkeeper or something, that person might not have even kind of touched the ball for 5 minutes, not at all directly involved in scoring a goal, but 10 minutes previously saved a penalty that kept them in it, right? So, so whether you are directly involved in, whether you directly involved in success or not, really, the whole team contributes towards whatever you're doing. And I think, that if you look at sort of high performing teams, that is, I think, the for me anyway, the critical kind of the critical sort of attribute, let's say, towards the success or failure of the team. So really that's what fostering that within a team, and that's not necessarily easy, right? Accolades will generally come to people who perform highly. That will naturally come. But when either you're leading or you're part of a team, it's quite easy to focus on accolades and individuals, when in reality, you need to spend your energy ensuring that the whole team shares in that success.
Absolutely. Spot on. Thanks, Chris. Thanks a lot for that. So if you look at this now, usually there are conflicts. Many conflicts happen. So how do you deal with conflicts in a team?
I think, for me, it's about open and honest communication, really.
Yes.
Right?
Honesty, yes.
I think, for me, communication is key. I think for me, it's quite easy to see when there are conflicts. It's another question about addressing them.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And sometimes you feel that, okay, it will kind of, it's a temporary thing, it will go away, whatever it may be.
Yes.
But the reality is it generally doesn't, right? So obviously it depends on the conflict that you have. But I think, look, I think it's about addressing things and addressing things kind of early on, right? If a team is not pulling in the same direction, and there's either a gap in the direction that you're going, i.e., maybe it's not the right thing to be doing at that right time.
Yes.
Is it important to address the strategy?
Yes.
Or maybe it's a performance issue in terms of one individual or group of individuals that are not sort of performing as per the rest of a team.
Okay.
I think that the key is kind of addressing that, and addressing it as early as you can. I mean, the sort of negative part of it is, if you don't address it, then generally speaking, the whole team suffers.
Absolutely.
And if you have one person underperforming, it generally spreads and means that the whole team starts to underperform. And I think, that's critical, like whether that is sort of junior teams, whether that's senior teams, whether that is kind of, very senior teams, let's say. We all kind of keep the same pace as our colleagues. And if you go into a high performing team, generally you will perform better yourself. Okay. And equally, if you go into an underperforming team, you generally will underperform yourself as well.
Spot on. Absolutely. Thanks, Chris. I mean, key points. I'm sure a lot of our students also would benefit from this. All right. So looking at your youth, right? So what was the silliest fear you had?
I mean, for me, I'm generally an introvert. So I mean, public speaking, doing anything like this, going up on stage, those are the things that kind of still to this day are scary.
Okay.
And outside your comfort zone. But look, I mean, I think the most, not necessarily exciting, but the most sort of things that we get reward out of is doing things that scare us a little bit, and getting over those kind of fears. So, for me, yes, things are going to be scary. You're not necessarily going to want to do it before you get started. Yes. But, put yourself out there, do it. And that will kind of go. The more and more that you do it, the more and more you'll feel more comfortable and get over that kind of fear. But I think fear is kind of a healthy thing. If we weren't scared of it, then we wouldn't see any value in it, right? So there's a healthy level of being scared.
Yes, absolutely. Right. So speaking about that, even one of my greatest fear was public speaking when I was a kid, right? Yeah. So today I'm doing many podcasts. So you see, I mean, it changes. We have to push. When we get scared, we need to push that, and we need to go a bit further, like David Goggins says, and many other motivators, they say. Great. So, Chris, we want to ask you one final question before we wrap up. So, any interesting stories or a story you want to relate?
Well, I mean, I actually have a story on what not to do.
Okay.
I have a story from sort of earlier in my career, let's say, and when I was kind of leading a team of around kind of like 10 individuals and relatively junior positions. And, you know, my first leadership sort of experience, getting into a team and really being responsible for that team. And, you know, all I've talked about, you know, for today is really about developing a sort of, you know, team where everybody feels valued. And really that's exactly what I didn't do. So I built a kind of team where we would focus on individual successes within the team. And I thought, you know, going into that, I thought that would motivate everybody to step up, to, you know, keep the morale. In reality, it was destroying morale, right? By focusing on individual kind of achievements. And, you know, and that's really what you learn things early in your career, but learning stuff like that kind of the hard way is something that you definitely don't forget. And luckily, you know, we were able to recover it. We were able to sort of address it, turn it round, and, you know, from then on kind of pull the group together, focus on group successes. And like I said, individual successes will always come. You know, whether that's outside the team, people who are, you know, are performing well, you know, will always get accolades, whether that is in a corporate in organization, whether that is, you know, in media, whatever it may be, you will always have sort of, you know, individual successes. But I think, you know, as a sort of team leader or as a kind of, you know, voice within that team, you know, the energy needs to be put into sharing those accolades within the team.
Spot on. Go ahead, Chris.
So that was my sort of story on how not to do it. But I mean, those kind of things stick with you, and they kind of formulate later in life, you know, the ways that you do or don't do things, put it that way.
Great. Wonderful. So thank you, Chris. Thank you. Thanks a lot actually for taking time and doing this podcast with us. And thanks again from our team. And
well, thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for thinking of me and inviting me to do this. And yeah, thank you.
All right. All the best, Chris.
Thank you very much, Watson. Thank you. Take care.